million deficit in the general fund was primarily driven by the state's 3.5% cap on property tax revenue growth, lowering the projected sales tax revenues as well, and cuts in federal funding. This proposed budget prioritized services Austinites expect and deserve while taking into account the current financial landscape. Through careful planning and listening to our community, we presented a balanced budget that aligns with three critical focus areas: people, places, and partnerships. We prioritized engagement with our community and staff alike while building stronger partnerships with local, regional, and international partners. The proposed budget strengthens our community's sense of place by creating a more livable and affordable and resilient Austin. Balancing the budget with a shortfall in revenues while investing in key areas was made possible by a close and critical look at all spending, making reductions, realize savings where appropriate, and in a way that does not impact important services. We increased funding in key areas such as shelter for people experiencing homelessness, emergency rental assistance, energy rebates and incentives, youth athletic fields, storm drainage rehabilitation, and much more. I've appreciated all of the city department's participation as we work together on this proposed budget. While challenging, I am proud of this proposed budget and the countless hours of work by the staff that went into its creation. It represents a financially sound roadmap to ensure those who live and work in Austin, as well as those who visit our city for the unique experience it offers, will continue to benefit from the exceptional level of service Austinites have come to expect. As we plan ahead, we continue to do so strategically while listening and responding to our community members and seeking innovative pathways to encourage. We are preserving and promoting and progressing the values of the city of Austin and all the folk who call it home. We'll now take your questions.
City Manager, you talked about how this budget helps expand emergency response operations, and you mentioned wildfires, but when we talk about floods, because that's been, in the forefront of the news lately, how does this budget fit into, some of those types of, some of those bills?
Well, the key point would be that it does not take us backwards, particularly as it relates to us as a city keeping our residents safe and being available to assist other residents, particularly in our region, who are in need. And so between whether it's our fire department or our watershed department, the policies and the things that our council has asked us to implement have further strengthened how we look at ensuring that, one, our residents are safe, that, one, we're a resilient community, and we're able to respond when in fact we're needed. And so I do not believe anything has taken us backwards. Actually, it's strengthened us, one, by even giving the chief more flexibility to manage his staffing levels to ensure, again, that we're ready when needed.
City Manager Broadnax, just kind of bouncing off of that, the single biggest reduction in spending that I saw was in overtime for police and fire. Could you break down a little bit just exactly how that works and what kind of restructuring will take place to save that money?
Sure. Let me first start, and then I'll defer to Mrs. Lang and or Ed should I need any clarification. So when we talk about police in the big picture, one of the issues and challenges, I think it came up earlier in the budget presentation, it was our staffing levels. And part of the issues that drive overtime in our police department are calling officers in on overtime due to shortages, particularly in our patrol division, which responds to level 1 and 2 category class calls. And so the chief is working with the respective folk in her department to redeploy and reassign individuals in other units to patrol to reduce the need for overtime to respond to those critical calls. And so that's where you will see the reduction by a shifting in what is now used in overtime to staff the issues related to our patrol unit will now defer to existing staff currently on duty that will be put back in patrol and rotate through patrol. Similarly in fire, the overtime reduction that we budgeted to begin in January is to request that council give the chief flexibility to manage the staffing levels Right now, on every apparatus, it is mandated that there are 4 people on each one of the units, regardless. And so that is driving overtime, particularly when we have people who are out on vacation and or sick leave and or are injured. And so they are calling people back, which one, as the chief mentioned a little earlier, doesn't give time for people to actually rest and actually, recharge their battery. So this would allow the chief the flexibility to have staffing of 4 people on certain units that require 4-person staffing, but actually be able to accommodate and keep those units available with 3 people on them to allow, again, for the response to happen as it always has, but not requiring 4 people on a unit, which lowers overtime because you're not staffing it because of shortages with calling people back in at premium time. And so that's how we believe we can realize savings in both of those particular departments. And I don't believe I missed anything. Thank you.
But you would have to ask them to rescind the ordinance that they passed in 2018.
So that is part of what will need to happen. Council would have to add language to that provides the chief the flexibility to do that. And hopefully over these budget conversations, one, will make that even more clear to council, which I think they do understand, but understand that it in no way will jeopardize the safety of the response that you would receive from the fire department.
City Manager, you also, in finding this $33 million, we've moved $14 million over from the reserve fund, we've made some staffing changes. Can you also talk about maybe there being changes to maybe potentially money for programs that may not have seen some of the same funding last year, or what some of those reductions might have been to help cut away at that $33 million?
So one, to talk about the precise reductions, I think that was a broad question, but I would say particularly as it relates to the social service funding, which I think we used our budget stabilization reserve to support not having to cut $14+ million there. As I articulated a little earlier to the council, that was to provide due notice longer than a month and a half to 2 months for our providers so that they could get their budget and or reprioritize some of their service levels should it be necessary next year. And so we believe those services are critical when with so much going on at the federal and state level and the resources that we are losing there and how that's impacting the people that are closest to our residents and providing them services with our assistance. We didn't want to disrupt that. And so we took a strategic approach to how we reduced areas in our departments to not impact staff or erode the actual services that they provide. And so we were very clear, I think, in the presentation, particularly as we forecasted the fiscal year 2027 budget, that should we not receive additional revenue, there will be more difficulty in balancing the budget next year because we've eliminated quite a few things that were one-time in nature that we were able to accomplish this year.
Kind of a similar question for the Housing Trust Fund. Could you just speak to the decision to kind of use up some more dollars from that source this year? And also wanted to ask, just given kind of the projection of less new property value coming online, what that means for the Housing Trust Fund in future years.
Sure, and I'm going to defer the specifics of that particular fund to our budget director who understands what we went through to analyze and kind of where we found those resources this year. Carrie?
Thank you, City Manager. So when we look at the Housing Trust Fund, we worked really closely with the Housing Department staff to identify areas of savings in past years and availability in the fund's balances to allow for us to fund the marshalling yard in particular for fiscal year 26. So it was work that we've done hand in hand to try to understand what can we use those funds for appropriately in fiscal year 26 while continuing the services that are funded and in or through the Housing Trust Fund. So emergency rental assistance is still funded. There are a number of vouchers that are still funded. So there's still funding available through that fund in addition to allowing us to fund the marshalling yard for fiscal year 26.
And I think, excuse me, your second question was related to new tax value.
Kind of just with the lower tax projections in future year, I guess that kind of ties into there being less development anticipated and potentially less new funding from, I think Councilmember Vale mentioned like the bonus program paying into the Housing Trust Fund. So replenishing that in future years, I guess.
So specifically to that point, when you think about how the resources flow into that fund, the comment was made when you compared last year's amount of 5.3 billion to, I believe, the 2.3 billion that was identified at this early stage. What's critical to think about is the things that we need to be doing as a city in economic development, in how we set our policies, whether it's our density bonus and or establishing new programs that incentivize and help build the type of housing at the affordable rates I think the council desires. We've got to focus in and actually have a plan and a roadmap for how we're going to begin to attract and move more individuals, one, into housing, but also encourage development in this community. That's something we'll be working over the next year, and we've got to do that given where we are with the state caps and or the naturally occurring construction and things that are happening. We've got to do more to incentivize and ensure that we can keep up with our ongoing expenses by putting more value on property that ultimately becomes subject to taxation.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I just stood there.